Australia's tobacco tax is under fire, blamed for spawning a booming black market as smokers seek a cheaper deal. Yet, despite growing calls to slash it, the government insists the sky-high tax is here to stay.
Fire bombings in Victoria, ram raids in New South Wales. Queensland, the latest state to see a spike in targeted torchings as the tobacco turf wars and the battle for control of the black market goes nationwide.
The situation as it currently stands is intolerable. It's not working. Something's got to change.
The New South Wales Premier this week blaming the federal government's annual tobacco tax hike for an illegal tobacco trade that's thriving, calling on the PM to slash the tax, a move the Treasurer has ruled out.
I don't think the answer here is to make cigarettes cheaper for people. I think the answer here is to get better at compliance.
Since 2013, the tobacco excise has jumped 282% and taking the average price of a 25-pack of legal cigarettes to around $50. That's around triple the price of a pack of under-the-counter smokes, which cost as little as $15.
It's just not working, and it's driving law-abiding people who follow the rules every day of the week into an illegal marketplace.
And while smoking rates are down,
since the increase in tobacco excise started a little more than a decade ago, 1 million fewer Australians are smoking.
So too is government revenue.
This would be the only tax in the history of the world that has doubled, but revenues will decline by 33%.
The broader industry, we understand, in the last year alone, has lost about $6 billion in legal sales, and all of that has transferred directly to the illegal market.
But the federal government says making legal cigarettes cheaper won't beat the black market.
If you look at other countries that have substantially lower priced cigarettes than Australia, the US, some European countries, most in Asia as well, they also have thriving black markets.
Since March 2023, there have been more than 130 fire bombings in Melbourne. In Sydney, for every one McDonald's, there are 60 smoke shops.
You have to be willful at this point to believe that there's nothing taking place. Clearly, our main streets are being taken over by tobacconists. The reason for that is because of illegal tobacco.
So can we snuff out the black market by lowering prices, or has the window to beat illegal tobacco already gone up in smoke?
Well, Rohan Pike is a former federal police officer who helped found the Australian Border Force's Tobacco Strike Force. Rohan, do you agree with Premier Minns? Is the answer slashing the tax?
Well, good evening. Yes, I agree with everything Premier Minns said this week. Slashing the tax is one of the solutions to helping this problem. How far we slash that is a matter that needs some research. But when the legal price is 3 times the illicit price, it's clearly driving people to the illegal product.
The government would argue, though, that other countries where legal cigarettes are cheaper have equally thriving black markets. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd say that's not true. What countries are they talking about? In Korea, the illicit rate is 3%. In Japan, it's less than that. In Singapore, the illicit rate is 2.5%. Across Europe, it's about 10% across all 38 countries there. And here, the illicit rate is 50% plus. Some sources say it could be as high as 70%.
Doesn't it stand to reason, though, that if they cut the tax, as long as the legal product is more expensive than the black market product, people will buy that? So, I mean, I don't even know if it would be possible to make it cheaper, but ultimately all they'll do is lose revenue. They won't actually solve that problem.
The criminals will lose revenue, and we'd like to think that your average Australian is a law-abiding citizen. And generally they were up until a few years ago, until the tax became so extreme. Combined with the cost of living crisis, they just decided that enough was enough and they weren't going to pay those excessive prices. So there is a balance, there is a level where people will hopefully return to the legal product.
But the way-in's different to the way out, right? I can imagine there would be people who would only go to the black market once it becomes expensive. But having gone there, I mean, they just wouldn't want to pay any more, would they? Like, I just don't know how you figure out whether or not this would be possible.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's now an entrenched market in the illicit side of it. So what it needs is an incentive. As I say, I don't know what that price point would be, but it needs some research. Perhaps go and ask 10,000 smokers what price would encourage them back to the legal market. But of course, it needs to also come with increased enforcement and force people back to that product.
If you sorted it out at the border, Could you keep the tax where it is so that you discourage people from smoking in the way that used to work?
Theoretically, yes, that's true, but there's no product that's been able to be, no illicit product has been able to be stopped at the border because our border settings are not designed to search every container and stop every illicit product coming through. There's always going to be illicit products get through the border if you send enough, bombard the border enough.
Rohan Pike, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.